Hey guys, how's it going? I'm the Duke of Italy, your favorite lo-fi music YouTuber, and just checking my audio levels and quiet music YouTuber because my roommates are sleepy. They're tired. They don't want to be awake right now. So I'm wondering how much I could touch my microphone without bothering it, without bothering my roommates. But more importantly, we got the ambiance set. Look at the black all around me. This is the last full content video of the month before Nothing But Black Metal November. On Halloween, I hope to get out the roster, or even a few days before Halloween, I'll get out the roster for Nothing But Black Metal November, which I am so hyped for. I've been looking forward to it literally all year. I've had the list ready since last year. It's probably going to be the same thing for next year. The only thing I didn't have ready were the recent albums I'll be talking about, which I will upload very shortly. But today we're talking about more black metal, but this time it is cold black metal, part 2, as we did part 1 a couple of videos ago. And I'm happy to say this chart has been nothing but wowing me, and it's going to wow me some more. There are some duds, but you got to take the good with the bad. And I don't want to waste too much time just kind of chilling, not talking about it, but let's begin. And first we begin with a doozy of a name, Bergthron, with Verborgen in den Tiefen der Wälder. So this album's very simple construction. It's one song, and it's 33 minutes long. And by one song, I really mean one track, as it could easily be 3, potentially even more tracks. It's a really atmospheric blend of various folk textures in different atmospheres. You've got a really low-hanging guitar riff with some looming synths and an acoustic guitar riff that kind of ties the whole thing together. There are some cold wind samples that make it an overall bewildering mix. It does suffer from some kind of poor mixing and honestly not an amazing sound set of synths overall, but you do have textures like the acoustic guitar that do kind of tie everything together. There are some lit frog harsh vocals and some pagan larp clean vocals. It's literally like a blend of like Nocturnal Mortem and Inquisition. There are a ton of Kino moments, and it even feels a bit progressive with how long it is and how it weaves into stuff, so it's pretty interesting for sure. But overall, we're starting today with a good album. Honestly, it's like a lot of different things I expect here, vaguely atmospheric black metal, occasional pagan influences, occasional acoustic stuff. Synths are a guarantee. Up next, we got Sorcier de Glaces. I don't know how to pronounce this stuff, but the album's called Snowland. It's borderline abrasively raw, like almost too raw, and it's about 40 minutes of really crispy atmospheric black metal, which features some admittedly bad frog vocals. That being said, the guitar playing is exceptional. The guitar has that clear contrast between atmospheric black metal and some more pagan sort of melodic riffs. It works exceptionally well. The contrast is truly something to behold. The riffs are overall awesome, kind of unexpectedly so in contrast to the vocals. But what's cool about it is the dark and gothic atmosphere is really pervasive. I think it's honestly the best part of the whole thing. Almost makes you forgive the vocals. But if the vocals were better, this thing would probably be great. But as it is right now, it's just good. And up next we have another one that I'm sure people have wanted me to listen to. This is Graveland with The Celtic Winter. Both Graveland and Nocturnal Mortem are bands that come across as like kind of NSBM leaning, and they're just bands that I haven't been able to get into. They're also bands that LARP a whole ton, whether it's Nocturnal Mortem with the obnoxious pagan references or Graveland with the really, really unappealing production. That being said, Nocturnal Mortem has really wowed me with some of their riffs and some of their progressions, and Graveland has had the occasional riff that sounds pretty good, but they've never wowed me. Honestly, they always feel kind of too simple, and this album is kind of similar. It's one that has not wowed me. And there's also a Celtic Winter album as well as a Celtic Winter demo. We are covering the album right now because that is what the picture on the chart is. I'll show the chart hopefully at the end of this video if I remember to do that. I never remember to do that, but here's hoping. And as one who has not heard the demo, at a glance, they look about the same. They've got like the same track lengths, the same tracks pretty much. And honestly, you would think this is a demo with the way the production is just straight garbage. It's pretty interesting, sort of prideful black metal, the way it contrasts between, it's basically got a 1-to-1 contrast between more rock oriented riffs and more crushingly dismal DSBM leaning riffs. You know, you get stuff like kind of early Peste Noir, hints of that in here. There are some atmospheric pagan sounding riffs that sound pretty good, and the ending third of this whole album here is actually just really angsty feeling. It feels kind of exceptional. So I think this album's good. I mean, I'm still pretty far from like loving Graveland, but I think they have some material that works. And up next we get Sieghetnar with Kaltatod. By the way, I have no clue if I'm pronouncing any of this stuff right. I'm just glad it's not in Polish, because then we'd be really struggling. This is black ambient in its truest sense. Synths in wind sounds, like in its veins. And it's really cool how you get the more guitar-based ambient textures. I do think that the fake nature recordings, like it's all synthetic, and the actually like down-tempo sections are kind of goofy, but other than that, you do have some atmosphere. I do give it points for creativity, but it is seriously flawed. It feels like an incomplete album. I do think it's good, the way it's like so mesmerizing, but like I'd rather just listen to some Paysage d'Hiver. And up next, we have a band from Russia that, I couldn't read this name to you if I tried, but the band's name translates to cold. Here is the album picture. It's an EP. It is super unique sounding. It's like really thick, and occasionally there are some good riffs here. It sounds more unique than anything. There is a drum machine which sounds extremely crunchy and almost like it's not blended well, but at the same time it feels like awesome. And there are tons of synths. I mean, I'm not really surprised, but they're all here. And it's also just a horribly mixed piece of music here. It literally sounds like a MySpace release, which is normally a terrible detriment, but this album actually sounds like okay. It's got like an avant-garde feeling of something like Fanisk, I guess you could say. It's simultaneously like the lamest and like coolest thing I've ever heard. So, you know, I feel like giving this thing a good because I'm kind of torn on it. And because I know it's really hard to search up, I will provide a link in the description to the version of this that I listened to, which is a YouTube upload, so anyone watching my video can listen to it. And next we get the band Desolate Winds in Times of Cold, this is just a 2-track 23-minute long EP. Nothing exactly crazy. It's cold, it's dismal, it's drony. It literally feels like prime era Burzum, but on like Quaaludes. It is a brick of structure. It is completely unmoving, which does have its benefits. The second song is a bit of an improvement, as around 6 minutes in, it breaks down at this colder pace and it feels absolutely frigid. I think it's a really cool way to make it like just feel so freezing cold. It does suffer from being intensely monotonous and having sort of a lack of creativity behind it, but it sounds good, so it's okay. And up next is Galder, self-titled. It's about a half hour of synthy, decently Burzum-inspired black metal, and the drums are particularly Burzum. Like the song Winter Spirit literally has the same drum parts as something like Yesu Dod. And in terms of what we've been hearing on this chart, it is relatively unremarkable, but I do think that it's pretty hypnotic, which is definitely a step in the right direction. The only real flaw about this thing is the silly dungeon synth intro, but I can't lie, it sounds pretty solid. I mean, the influences are all here. It's just kind of derivative, but I still think it's good. I mean, like, you're not going to be exactly wasting your time. You're just not finding anything groundbreaking. And up next is Thurgrim's Winterhall. Now you get a good solid 50 minutes of black metal here, which is absolutely low on production tricks. It's very bare bones, mixing just what it needs to. It's just fast-paced, depressing black metal. It's overall one of the most grim albums on this chart. In terms of something that makes you sit and stare at a wall, they don't really come much better than this one. That being said, as grim as it is, there are some really beautiful chords to this whole thing. It's all picked really perfectly with some nice rhythmic intricacy, and I think the chord progressions sound almost blissful in contrast to the completely grim and crushing tone that everything else has around this, the guitar part. Honestly, it is a bit of a basic album, as many of these have become at this point. You know, they're all very drony, kind of repetitive atmospheric black metal, but here it has this unparalleled dreary atmosphere. It feels like you're slugging through like slush. It's like absolutely unforgiving in terms of an atmosphere. So like it doesn't feel that derivative. In terms of atmospheric black metal, the most key thing is the atmosphere, and if the riffs engage you. And here, that is absolutely a fact. And so it took us long enough, but we finally reached a great album due to just some fantastic atmosphere and some pretty solid riffs to boot. And this goes into Wintercult's Winds of the Past. It's a compilation, which is a really, really fuzzy guitar sound, sort of DSBM style. Well, it is very consistent for a compilation in sonic texture. I do think it has some pretty nice variety in songwriting, and I love the vocal variety in the harsh vocals. While some tracks sound like they are wailing and just desperate for help, other tracks are yelled in an almost like frog-like way that feels totally apathetic to the plight of really anything. Unfortunately, this thing is like mostly covers, including the opening track, which is a black metal cover of a song off of, I think, Dottie Baldur's Death by Burzum, which is kind of weird, but like, I mean, okay. So the thing about this compilation, it is a great listening experience, but the creativity doesn't really sit with me that well, as there's so many covers and it just doesn't loop into itself in a way. It feels like it's using it as a real crutch to become like an actual like almost album with a cover in here. I don't know. It just doesn't sit with me that well. I think it's good though. If I just suck it up and be like a little more accepting, I'd probably think it's even better. So this is probably one of the most things I'd recommend at this point in the chart. Something kind of funny here. This notebook that I have my notes in, I actually wrote this chart like years ago, and I see a Rina Sawayama review on the next page from 2020. So, you know, back when I was barely doing this stuff, I wrote down this chart to review. But that doesn't really matter because we're going into Old Forest of Mists and Graves, classic 13-minute long EP, which is slow and repetitive with some whispered vocals. This one right here is kind of classic. You know, Old Forest is a band that you don't hear about too much, but it's one that's like, well, they got a cool EP, because they do have a cool EP. You know, I'm reviewing it right now. I'd say I only review cool things, but I just reviewed a bunch of things that weren't that cool, and a couple cool things, but I'm gonna tell you right now, this one's cool. And admittedly, it has this kind of weird, lame, pagan atmosphere until it sucks you in with a crazy blend of a really crazy guitar tone and some super hypnotic songwriting. The riffs just churn and mix in this way that just keeps you locked in the whole time. Granted, it's only 13 minutes, but like, I think it counts. While the riffs are not insane by any means in terms of melodic content, you know, there's a nice contrast with all these very folky and exotic instruments. It's a lot of stuff that you probably would hear on like a Nagura Bunget album. Like you got like a long way to go until you reach these things being regular in black metal, especially because this is like a pivotal 90s English black metal EP, which I know most of those words like shouldn't even go together. I mean, this is a pivotal English black metal release, which England is just known for some garbage black metal. So, you know, here you go. There is some good English black metal. I should probably mention, I just can't remember it right now. So basically this release is just 3 tracks with an outro attached on the end as a 4th track. It's all some really excellent atmospheric black metal. There's really nothing to complain about. It's certainly short, but like as a collectible piece, as something I definitely want on vinyl, it's a really cool little cult release here. I think it's great. And up next, Paysage Divers Winterkalt, or Winterkalt, as I call it. Yeah, this one, spoiler alert, this one's on my Nothing But Black Metal November chart for this year, so I'm not gonna review it yet. If you want to see me review it, check out probably part 2, either part 1 or part 2 of my review. I'll just tell you guys right now, I'm starting something new, this Nothing But Black Metal November, and I will announce this as well on that video. I'm reviewing an entire discography of a band, except for Paysage Divers, I'm not exactly doing an entire discography. I'm doing all of their black metal demos. I'm not including Dostor or Einsamkeit, as those are ambient demos, but I'm covering all of the albums that are officially titled demos. Paysage Divers has a pretty lengthy discography. I could cover more, but I didn't want to cover the actual full-length albums, which there are only 2 demos. There are many more. Winterkalt is one towards the end, sort of in between the middle and the end, probably like 70% through. So I'm not even going to tell you my opinion of it right now, but all you got to know is that it is, I will have a brief mention of this thing. It is maybe the folkiest Paysage d'Hiver release up until their later work, as well as the fact that it's one of the longest long songs, really long feeling release, but it is excellent atmosphere. It sounds fantastic, and I won't mention anything else about it, but you should probably listen to it because Paysage d'Hiver is just that based. And then we go into Fimbul with Winterland. I feel like I'm LARPing every time I say like a band's name here. It is a raw and snowy 15-minute long atmospheric black metal demo from, of all places, Norway, which I know for black metal that is like where it should be, but like not a lot of Norwegian black metal has shown up here today. You got some slightly frog-leaning vocals here and some really thundering double kicks, so a couple textures that are certainly fun, but it feels dark and absolutely grisly, a really unforgiving atmosphere. It's a really short release here, just being 15 minutes long, but the outro, being all synthy, is really solid as well. I think it works as a release perfectly well, ties together very nicely. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, I think it's great. Next we get Celtic Moon with My Illusion of an Eternal Winter, and we have one of the only cases I've ever had this thing happen. It is too rawly produced. It is a demo, as far as I can tell, but it is so rawly produced that it sounds like absolute mush. Good luck picking out the bass, good luck picking out whatever the note the tremolo pick guitar is. Good luck hearing anything the drums other than something that sounds like a bunch of trash cans being thrown down the stairs. It sounds like utter garbage. It is too raw. And this is coming from a guy that likes Minima. This is coming from a guy that likes Emit or I like Revenant Marquis or whatever that band is. I love that like super raw style of black metal. Like some of it doesn't sound like black metal anymore because it's so raw, but this thing here just sounds like garbage. To your ears, it actually just sounds so unflattering, not to mention the riffs are repetitive and ungratifying. Every once in a while, you hear something that sounds like a decent songwriting idea, if not something derivative, but other than that, just sounds like garbage. In my opinion, it's one of maybe 4 releases I've ever heard in my life that sound too raw, but yeah, this is the only time on this chart I'm giving something a pour. But next we get Lycanthropy's Spell with Lycanthropic Hymns, which is so based it hurts. You can hear that there is bass guitar, but it's a more hollow sounding mix than anything that Eisenwinter has ever released, as far as the ones that I've heard. And Eisenwinter sounds hollow, they don't have a bass guitar. And there's some really solid variety between some more traditional black metal lead guitar parts, some more intense rhythmic parts, and some more folky, almost like skipping parts. Objectively, this thing is terrible. Like, it sounds bad, it doesn't really work. It's as lonely as Drowning the Light though, and for me, the atmosphere really clicks. The riffs and atmosphere carry the whole thing. It almost makes us feel like an NSBM demo with the way it's like no one would want to mix this thing because they'd get canceled. But this thing just feels completely unmixed in general. But the riffs sound great, the drums sound like garbage, and I think it's good. I think it's totally worth a listen because you'll listen to it and you're like, wow, like this could have easily been like an amazing thing. But what actually is an amazing thing is Enslaved Yggdrasil, the final demo we're covering today, or album or anything, but this is a demo, and it is one of Enslaved's best released things, because I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Winter. I'm not a huge, whatever the frickin' Enslaved album is that's got like the blue cover. I think it sounds like garbage, but this thing here is an excellent blend of sort of the Viking metal direction they were going for and some really cold sounding black metal. It is rawly produced, but in a way that works really well. And it is the most melodic album we get on this whole thing here. They've always leaned a bit more on the melodic side, got a little bit of various progressive elements here, but it sounds fantastic. It is most likely the darkest Enslaved project. It is super melodic, but occasionally it has a super fast, more caveman riff style. It is super early second wave. Like most black metal bands barely had an album out, most of them had demos, so most of this stuff is like game changing for black metal. Like the pagan elements is like Bathory had it, but like barely. The song Halvalr is almost atmospheric black metal with its 9 minutes straight of riffing and really fuzzy tone, and also really obscured vocals. They sound like they're buried under like a few inches of concrete. There are some great synths on the whole thing, and there's also an interlude which is just piano, which has great composition, and there's a bonus track to the whole thing simply titled Enslaved, which is just a banger. Everything about this is fantastic. You really can't go wrong with it. It's great. And, that's another year of pre Nothing But Black Metal November content under wraps. This is an awesome chart. Kind of lacking on the second half of the chart, with a bunch of releases that had a bunch of production issues, but I can't really complain. And honestly, I believe that's a notebook under wraps. I mean, I've used this thing for years now. I mean, I've got stickers from, I think, since I was like a freshman in college. But yeah, really fun stuff. Really great black metal. I'm really glad to have listened to it all. And I'm really excited to introduce Nothing But Black Metal November to all you guys out there. I'm really excited to listen to it all with you guys. And that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Any comments, questions, or concerns, go ahead and comment down below. I will probably respond to it. I don't know. In the description, you'll find my social media, Instagram, Twitter, and my Discord page, which I would love if you join my Discord page. I'm there all the time. I've literally got notifications set up on my computer, so you guys can hit me up there if you'd like to. I mean, there's no fee or anything, so I'd love to talk to you guys. And that's about it. I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.